4th down, the final play, unless they can stick it in the end zone. Dorsey under pressure, throws it, incomplete. The Buckeyes win.
Ezekiel Elliott, and he's got an opening. Elliott off to the races. Can they catch him?
Feature the two backs as receivers, and now a downfield shot on first down for the end zone. Touchdown, Ohio State strikes first. Making adjustments again, and there is Smith running breaks a tackle. Ohio State strikes quickly from 45 yards. Pressure comes. Saul, knock it out, and picks it up. Jack Saul coming down the sidelines. Ohio State scoop and score and dagger from 82 yards.
Here they come.
Heavy pressure. Howard delivers downfield, and Smith, he's got it. Jeremiah Smith, the 2025 College Football National Champion, Coach Ryan Day, and the Ohio State Buckeyes.
Welcome in, Buckeye backers. We are bringing it to you live from Seattle, Washington, to the cornfields of Enid, Ohio. We are the pulse of Buckeye fans across the nation, with Seattle Matt and Buckeye Steve. What is up, Buckeye backers? Thanks for coming in. Thanks for joining us. We are closing in on one night's sleep from Buckeye football. Thank the Lord it is here. God bless everyone and God bless Buckeye football. Here we go. It is time. Number 1 comes to the shoe to take on number 3, your Ohio State Buckeyes. We may be lacking in experience, but what we're lacking in experience, we make up for in raw talent. And Texas is no different. The talent across the board is through the roof on both teams. Man, this is one hell of a matchup. And to pick this game without seeing anything, there is no scrimmages in college football. We don't know what to expect, to be honest with you. Seattle, you're back, baby. I always see that with Buckeye Steve and Seattle Matt, and you know what? You're finally here again, back for the show.
Yeah, good to be back. It was a long month of August. A lot of things going on, but it made the time fly by quickly and get us to Buckeye football. So, thanks for having me back.
The quickest off season for me ever. I mean, this has gone quick. It's here. We're ready. We're ready for the Tau. We're ready for Brutus to make an entrance into the stadium on his own, a special entrance. Get in the stadium by 11 o'clock if you're going to the game. There's supposed to be some fanfare coming, so enjoy it. Get in there. But let's start off. Let's get right into it, man. Right? This is a Manning quarterback coming to town to take on the Buckeyes, and the Buckeyes have their quarterback of their own, but first start ever against the number 1 team in the nation. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I have a lot of question marks in terms of this being a QB-dominated performance. And I think if you look over the past 6 weeks or 8 weeks as they're ramping up with college football, right, everything's been around Arch Manning. Julian Sain being named the number 1 starter got a lot of headlines. And, of course, nationally, the quarterback play is always going to be a topic, especially when one of the quarterbacks' last name is Manning. I'm going to be honest. I don't think quarterback is going to be the dominant factor in this game. I think it's going to be a footnote in this game. I think you look at the depth and the talent at Texas and Ohio State, the playmakers on offense and defense, and I think the biggest question marks that both universities come into with is their quarterback position. So we can sit around and talk for the next 45 minutes about Arch Manning versus Julian Sain. I think it's a byproduct of what the game's going to actually be about. I think if they are field generals, game managers, just kind of get into a rhythm and flow, I don't need a huge stat line from Sain in order to win this game. I think this is going to be a complete team game, and I think focusing in on that area is going to be more important than debating whether or not Arch Manning or Julian Sain is going to have a better game. What's your thoughts?
Sir, you're trying to say that we in the media are full of clickbait just to, spin some headlines and get some clicks?
Yes, that is exactly
That-
what I'm saying. And
That's
I would say there are no greater clicks than Arch Manning, but I'm pretty sure there was an engagement that took place this week that kind of dominated the headlines and maybe pushed Arch out of the headlines for one day or maybe two. I'm not entirely sure. I'm sorry, I don't follow that all too well. But yeah, Arch Manning's got the pedigree. He's got the last name. Does the kid have the talent? I think we're really going to see this year. This isn't a knock against him or a praise of him, simply because it's an unknown variable. And I think you can look at Ohio State's side and say, Julian Sayin coming out 5 stars. Alabama wanted him. He comes to Ohio State. Kid's clearly got talent, but what's he going to do on the field? And more importantly, what is this elite Texas defense going to show them? And is this young kid going to be able to step up in a game like this?
And I think that's the storyline, because really you start with the trenches, right? What's that offensive line of Ohio State going to do against the defensive line in Texas and the rest of those defenders? Because, I mean, from top to bottom, the more I deep dive into this, Texas defense is absolutely stacked, and it's scary. Absolutely stacked. I mean, first of all, you don't have a team based out of Texas, kind of the flagship university in that state. And it is a football state, right? Like, that's why there's so many Texas boys that come to Ohio State that do well, because they're born and bred football. And when you come to the Buckeye State, we're like that, maybe on a little bit smaller degree, just based on population size. But it's all about Buckeye football. It's all about football in general in Texas, and high school football is a little bit bigger in Texas.
It is, and you and I both played high school football in the state of Ohio, and I will put Ohio State high school football up against pretty much any state in the country. I would say Texas is better. I mean, they treat it like a religion down there. I love the fandom. I love the stadiums. I love the talent that they had. And if you look at Texas, even over let's just go the last 20 years, let's go post Vince Young era, had some good teams here and there, but they definitely had some downtimes. Even in those downtimes, they were still getting elite talent. They were pumping elite talent into the NFL. And I swear every year, I watch the NFL draft and I see one or two defensive linemen from Texas going, and it seems like they're reloading every single year. So I am always going to fear the Texas defensive line, because it seems to be an area of strength for them year in and year out. And I think I think you hit on the main storyline, in my opinion, of this game is the trenches, but more specifically the Ohio State O-line versus that Texas defensive line. And you can even put in the front six there, because they have a first-round draft pick in Anthony Hill at linebacker, who's going to be a force to be reckoned with.
And that's where I was going to go to. I mean, just to have a linebacker, like you said, pre-show, going in the first round is almost unheard of, that high in the first round at least, right? I mean, when's the last
pure
time
linebacker? Well, that's where you'd have to differentiate pure linebacker. You could start looking at, like, what about Micah Parsons, or what about somebody else that got labeled as a linebacker? But by and large, they predominantly play defensive end. You even saw that with Abdul Carter, sometimes mostly end, but occasionally would float into that linebacker spot, at least earlier in his career. Anthony Hill is a true Mike linebacker. So he doesn't play edge. He doesn't play end. He's not on. He's a pure middle linebacker, and you're looking at least early projections. If he even maintains just the same stat line and the same level of effort that he played in his sophomore year, you're talking about a lot of people quoting him as a top 20 pick in the NFL draft next year. That's unheard of at the linebacker position. So that's even scarier when you look at this defensive line that's going to play at a high level. In the event that you do get that gap, you do get that 2-on-1 where you create that opening, you have a first-round linebacker coming in to fill that spot. And as we're talking about this, again, I do want to dismiss that quarterback competition or discussion a little bit, simply because I don't think it's the headline. I think it's a footnote. But I will say Arch Manning and Julian Sayin's best friend in this game is going to be the running game. When you have a young quarterback in place, probably any quarterback, but especially a young quarterback, it is most essential to establish the run and have that 2nd and 6, 3rd and 3, giving that young quarterback these nice, easy third down conversions as opposed to getting 0 yard and 1 down yard, and now it's 3rd and 9, and you're putting Julian behind the sticks against, a secondary that has, again, a lot of projected second, maybe even first round talent going into next year's draft, middle linebacker, elite defensive line. You're going to set up Julian Sang to fail if we cannot establish a running game.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I think is really the battle that we got going on here. Because, talent equated, right? The offensive line on both teams needs to be able to protect, particularly when you're stacking level on level. You have a good defensive line, then you have a good linebacker behind it. I think Ohio State has the same thing as Texas does there, when you have K-Mac in the middle, Edric Houston in the middle, open up holes for Sonny Styles and Arvell Reese to follow behind it. I mean, those guys are studs and freaks of nature in their own right. Texas has the same thing. And when you stack levels on levels on levels, it gets real interesting, because what are you going to do? We look at Ohio State's offense from where we're at, and we're like, yeah, that offensive line looks good. It should be a Joe Moore award-winning offensive line. But this might be the best defensive line in the nation, and maybe even one of the best defenses in the nation in total in Texas. So, yeah, is that offensive line going to look good? I would hope so, but maybe not against the best defense in the nation, and maybe not game one against them. There's a lot to look at here. And when we're going to go in and be like, yeah, they're going to be awesome, everyone's saying that right now. This is preseason. Every team is saying, yeah, our goals are all in place. We're going to win a national title. We're going to win the league. Unless you're Rutgers barely getting through Ohio.
That was a struggle today, man. That was an enjoyable watch as we were talking pregame. But that's what you're talking about with putting these young quarterbacks in position to win. And again, this isn't about, are we going to run all over Texas? Probably not. Highly unlikely. But what you're looking at is, can you get 3 yards a carry? Can you get 3-4 yards a carry when you need it? And I know none of us want to talk about it. Go back to November 30th. Go look at the sequence of events in that game. They were getting 0 yards on 1st and 10. Then they would get 1 to maybe 2 yards on 2nd down. And you were constantly on 3rd and 8 or longer against a team with talent. It wasn't the talent we expected them to have, but you were constantly in 3rd and long situations, and Will Howard wasn't able to execute. So the running game is essential, not because you're expecting 10-yard gains or 20-yard gains or huge holes, but what you need to do is you need to put your quarterback in 3rd and manageable. And I would say the same thing you look at with Arch Manning in Texas. If Texas is not able to move our defensive line and get the run in place, Arch Manning is not going to do well in 3rd and 8 or longer. I don't care about his athleticism. I'm going to put Styles on him. I don't care about, can he make those long throws? He probably can, but I have a lot of trust in our secondary and our back six if we need it. So the real tale you're going to see unfold in this game today, or on Saturday, is looking at, what are these teams doing on 1st and 2nd down? Are they getting 3, 4, 5 yards per play? Are they making themselves in 3rd and manageables, or even getting a 1st down on that 2nd down play? The team that is able to do that and have that kind of control is going to be the team in the best position to win. I don't think it's going to be a lot of fireworks. And Vegas also feels that way.
Yeah, I think a low-scoring game, which is where Mike Bowser, a lot of people are saying Texas may roll Ohio State. I don't think anyone's rolling anyone in this game. It's going to be a knockdown, drag-out fight, and it's the first game of the season, so you're going to see a lot of mistakes. I don't think a lot of those mistakes are going to lead to touchdowns, because there's a sequence of events that's got to go in. The offensive line's got to gel, the defensive line's got to communicate, and you got to establish a rhythm. 2 young quarterbacks, establishing a rhythm is a hard thing to do. You got to get them comfortable. You got to get them comfortable quick, which is one place that I want to point out. There's 2 things that need to happen for each team. One is Ohio State needs to work on the running back screen, and similarly, like last year, Texas needs to hit those backs out of the backfield.
Yeah,
they got 2 touchdowns on that, and it wasn't screens. It was more of a swing pass or wheel route. And I think it was Sonny Styles that got caught up in traffic and didn't get out there on the edge to guard one of the running backs for the second touchdown, I think it was, that Texas had. I can't remember exactly, but yeah, that is where you can take some pressure off those young quarterbacks is those quick passes and those backs out of the backfield where, it's not necessarily reading the wide receivers and the cuts that they're about to make and timing throws. It's like, hey, we got him. This guy's wide open. If you can make those wide open passes and establish something like that, then you really take a lot of pressure off the quarterback of making mistakes and get them in a rhythm, and you get a quick, easy touchdown. That puts you in a good spot. Always.
But if I'm the defensive coordinators in this game, I'm anticipating that early on. I mean, naturally,
and they are.
Sark and Day are going to want to get their guys lathered up. They're going to want to have a drive go, 4 for 4, let's say for 22 yards, right? Just some quick, easy throws, 6 yards here, 4 yards there, get that rhythm or cadence. If I'm the defensive coordinator, I'm saying then I'm playing press man. I'm playing up tight. I'm doing different things. I'm not going to give you those quick, easy reads. You want to try to burn me for 18 yards? Okay, let's go at it. But both those coordinators are going to be well prepared for getting the quarterbacks in rhythm and doing that. And that's where, again, I think the great differentiator is going to be that run game and not putting so much onus on making sure my quarterback gets into a rhythm or making sure my quarterback is pushing the ball down the field. Those are things that come naturally in games as you start establishing a cadence on offense. You don't need that first play, that 18-yard out or a fade or anything like that. But you start getting some first downs. You start having some creative schemes and concepts that maybe they weren't understanding right away. You're going to start breaking bigger plays naturally as a result of that.
For sure. So, Alex, you're like Mike Bowser. Non-ball knowers are saying that it's going to be a blowout. Well, I don't know that you can label anyone now in the preseason as non-ball knowers or ball knowers. It's when the season comes on, when you start dissecting some of the actual matchups, that you decide who knows ball and who doesn't. And we'll find that out quickly enough. As a game like this comes, we're going to know who's able to dissect it and what these teams are really made of. Like you can practice all you want. I mean, you can go against each other ones-on-ones, but when the bullets start flying, that's really when you know what the team's made of. Like how you respond to adversity, how you respond to that first turnover, how the defense, after giving up a big play, rallies together behind their team and is like, you know what, no more. All right, they scored, but now it's time to lock it down. Because there's going to be mistakes. And Ryan Day said it in his press conference. It's not going to go how you plan it to go. How you respond to that is who wins this game.
We all thought we knew what this team was on December 1st last year. So let's put that in perspective. We thought we had it all figured out December 1st. We didn't have a clue. So to sit here and think that we're going to have it all figured out August 31st is absurd. What you need to take away from this game is, okay, where do you stack up right now against the team? And it doesn't mean that's where you're going to stack up in November or even in January. But are you doing those little things right? Did you take the things off the practice field, off the spring game, off, fall, I'll call it late summer practices? Are you doing a lot of those little things right that you can build off of? So, and you and I talked about this as well, too. The beauty of this game is 3 years ago, this game would be pressure packed because the loser of this game, you probably still have a path to that 14 playoff, but you basically have to win out. There was no two-loss team that was going to make a playoff in the 14 playoff. So you had to win out in order to salvage your season. That is an immense amount of pressure. The luxury of this game now with the 12-team playoff and why I love the 12 team so much is this is a great litmus test. It kind of shows you where you're at. But a loss in this game by either team does not exclude them from the playoffs whatsoever. May not even exclude them from a first-round bye. But it really is a testament of what you need to work on, where the growth and development occurs. And I applaud these two programs for doing it. I applaud Clemson and LSU for doing it, and a lot of other schools for doing this now. I think these are great tests early on.
Oh, yeah. It's awesome to see. It's great for college football fans. Like, how exciting is this to open up the season like this? I know it's not ideal maybe for a head coach and maybe for some of the players and a new play caller and Brian Hartline and a new quarterback on both sides, really. But, man, this is great. This is like the excitement. If we flip flop this and this was a second game of the week and we had, Grambling State out there, this is just like a ho hum. Like, yeah, I'm excited for college football to start again, and I'm excited to see what our guys are going to do. But I'm not like pumped up. Like, it's not creating the media buzz. The media room at the Woody Hayes Athletic Center would not be packed wall to wall. No one would be there. They'd be at other games. But right now in Columbus, all the attention, all the eyes are on Buckeye football, are on the Longhorns and seeing what they're going to do, how these two teams are going to match up. Some of the best of the best. All right, let's get into this. Mike Bowser, maybe, but are they better in every position other than Jeremiah Smith? All right, so no. And the first, glimpse of it is the offensive line. The offensive line for Texas is young, very young, and they had an injury too. In the preseason camp, guy went out with a ACL injury, so he maybe not was a starter, but it was looking like he was projected as a starter and sitting the bench now. All right, so a fresh group on the offensive line. I think maybe there's one returning starter, a senior on the offensive line for Texas. That's tough, man, because you got Manning, you got the name, you got the quarterback back there, but who's protecting them, right? If they're fresh on the offensive line, I know they're good athletes everywhere. They're reloading just like Ohio State reloads. They're not rebuilding, they're reloading. They got talent across the board, but they haven't done it. It's just like Ohio State's defense. They haven't done it yet. We got to see it. You got to put those pieces in place. I got to see how it's going to react before I can put my money on it. Like, this is a tough pick. This is a pick 'em for Vegas.
Yeah, in a lot of ways. I mean, you're seeing it at 1.5, right? But that's the home field advantage. But I would say to Mike's point right off the bat, I can name 3 position groups where I would clear cut Ohio State is better, and that would be wide receiver, tight end, and safety, right off the bat. Yeah. The rest, I think anybody could have a really healthy debate. I'd definitely say I think linebacker, I would favor Texas, even though I do like Styles and Reese a lot. I would still favor Texas. Cornerback, you could probably make an argument both ways. I'm not even going to touch the quarterback one. I would probably say running back in favor. Well, safety is Ohio State. Caleb Downs is the best safety in college football. End of discussion. Running back, I would probably favor Texas, to be honest with you. I think they have more experience and better talent, even though they did lose Blue back there. But we could sit here, and we talked about this, having this debate, position groups back and forth. I don't think you're going to get a lot of substance or value around that because both teams have elite talent. They just do. And they're reloading. They have elite talent, but they have elite talent with not a lot of game experience. So I think the real test is going to see who's going to weather the adversity and the storms within the games, who's going to be able to be fundamentally sound, as we talk about with all the times, turnovers, penalties, the great equalizers in games. I really want to see a low penalty game by both sides. I just want to see these two teams, not a lot of penalties, kind of let them decide it on the field and really just duke it out. Yeah.
You want to see that. So what do you think Ohio State's strategy is to take on this defense? Like, where would you start? Like, how do you settle into the game with a new quarterback, new running backs, probably a great offensive line, and excellent wide receivers? What's your first approach to start this game, to attack that defense?
I would look at a combination of a couple of things. I like play action early, because you go out and
like
say,
as in a first down early.
Yeah, ideally you'd like to establish the run before you start going to play action, but that's not always a requirement. And I think early on, ideally you'd love to just hand the ball off to Peoples, get 4 or 5 yards, couple first downs. That's a nice story. That's probably not practical with this D line at Texas. So I'd be looking early, maybe a little bit play action. I'd like to see those 8 to 14 intermediate routes. Really just trying to push it a little bit down the field. I'm not talking 35-yard post routes or anything crazy like that, but get into a rhythm, but not with those short throws. I don't want to see that under 6 throw, that button hook, that out route. Those are too easy to identify. I'd like to push it into that intermediate boundary early on, and then off the play action, I would actually look to incorporate that run.
I like that.
The offensive play calling that they incorporated against Tennessee, it will always stick in my mind as one of the most brilliant offensive play callings I've ever seen. And we saw it duplicated a little against Oregon, but if you actually go back and watch Texas and Notre Dame, you didn't see it incorporated as much. It was a work of art against Tennessee.
Oh, yeah.
We dubbed it the counter because we didn't have a better way of describing it. Yeah. I'd like to see that worked back in a little bit.
Yeah, when they were getting all the traffic flowing one way, pulling the guard one way, and typically with the counter, you would take the step the other way and then follow the linemen that were pulling with the counter. But they did the opposite. They pulled everyone and then ran back against the grain, and it was a thing of beauty. And then obviously when you got the Jeremiah Smith going in motion too, that took a little bit out of it within the Oregon game. That was amazing.
That's the other thing too, and definitely correct me if I'm wrong, but I do not believe Jeremiah's stat line against Texas was all that great. I thought they had a kind of a double coverage blanket over him. Yeah.
1 reception for 3 yards.
I remember that. So that's, again, when I'm looking at this, I look at Jeremiah being that ultimate chess piece. I want him in motion a lot. I want him moving around a lot. And then I'm turning around and I'm looking at Tate. I'm looking at Ennis. I'm looking at Claire. I think if you can see those guys, let's just say those guys rack up 14 receptions total in the game, maybe 15. I think that's a really positive sign. I don't think we need to see Jeremiah 9 catches, 193 yards, 2 touchdowns for Ohio State to win this game. I think you need to see the complementary weapons on the offense having big games, and that will really help Sang in this offense.
And let's flip that a little bit. Well, no, I'm gonna go there before we get into Mike's comment.
I wish, Mike, your lips to God's ears.
Yeah, for sure.
Easier said than done.
When you're talking about the triple coverage, the double coverage of Jeremiah Smith, it was just a blanket defense. Like, they were covering everything deep. It was a bend but don't break. There wasn't the opportunity for Ohio State to get into its next level of play calls because they were trying to take what the defense gave them early, and those were short, mainly curls. Like, every single curl was open. They would do triple wide receivers going out just doing curls, one in the middle, one on the left side, one on the right side. And Will Howard was hitting the one in the middle constantly, but all 3 of them were open. They were just nothing deep. And it worked. It was the bend but don't break. Ohio State broke because they were getting penalties. They broke themselves. And that's what killed Ohio State.
Yeah, they don't work on 1st and 20. You run 3 6-yard outs, you're not getting a first down. So
correct.
That's not effective. That's why you have to push into that intermediate boundary. And let's be very clear. Texas has a very, very good secondary. Again, I know mock drafts can be laughed about a little bit in August, but you're seeing a lot of the secondary cornerback position, safety being projected, at least the ones that are eligible for the draft, looking at 2nd round right now and probably could push up in the 1st round if they have strong years this year. So you're looking at a lot of talent there. You're not going to burn these guys. You're not completing 42-yard post routes or 62-yard fades. You don't do that against elite talent. Where you have to really exploit them is in that intermediate passing game. And I think Texas, they'll give you that 4-yard button hook all day long because it's not going to kill them. And they'll make you go 14 plays.
But that's where you, like, if you burn it, if you do that sustained drive where you just take what the defense gives you, you go down and you score, then that's the problem because they just played that bend but don't break, but you scored off of it. So the bend but don't break got broken. And then that's when you can get your next level of plays where you do the curl and go on one side, or you start getting in some of those crossing concepts. So they're going to start changing it up and trying to play a little bit of man and not just doing the blanket defense. If it's working, if you're taking what the defense gives you and you're driving all the way down the field, not penalizing, not defeating the whole purpose of what you're trying to do, take what the defense gives you and not going backwards, you're getting first down every time because those were 8-yard curl routes that they were really taking.
Yeah, but statistically speaking, it's really tough.
Yeah.
It's really tough for college offenses to sustain 12 to 15-yard drives consistently. More often than not in college football, something's going to go wrong. Penalty, turnover, something like that. So you may get a 14-play drive once.
Mm-hmm.
You're probably not going to sustain that multiple times in a game. So that's where you're not going to see them come up on that 4-yard button hook because I don't need to intercept it. I'm going to play back. I'm going to let you catch it. I'm going to hit you. You got your 4-yard gain. Great. Do it 10 more times this drive. Let's see if you can do it. Because eventually that field's going to tighten and you're not going to have that access to that anymore. So that's where you really can't play that sluggo or that curl and go off of that because they're not biting up on it. And that's where you have to look at the intermediate part of this field. And this is where, again, you have the wide receivers. I'd be running different wide receivers down the field all that time. You're not going to hit it more often than not, more often a decoy, but I want one, potentially two people stretching that field, and you stretch that out, maybe have somebody short over the middle as that viable option. And then I want you feasting in that 8 to 15-yard range. That's how you really attack this. And if they want to ever come up, that safety wants to bite, they're tired of getting that 12-yard gain here and there, that's where you go over the top. But if you want to play this dink and dunk game, Texas played it last year against us. They lost. We try to play that with Julian saying, we will more than likely lose this game.
And this is the great conundrum here, because you can't play that game and put pressure on Julian saying. They're going to want to put pressure on him to see if he cracks, right? When you have a quarterback that's just coming out there that's that green, you want to see what he does when he gets flustered. So they're going to have to take their attempts at getting some pressure and getting some sacks and seeing how Sane responds. So I don't think that they're going to necessarily play like that. They may start off like that, but I don't think that they're going to spend their entire defense back with a blanket bend but don't break type strategy. They're going to want to get their defense after that quarterback right away. Maybe not right away, but that depends.
Arch Manning is a very intelligent quarterback. This is a kid, not pedigree aside, right? I mean, he's probably spent his entire life talking football, every family event and whatnot. Very smart football IQ. He's also sat the bench the last 2 years in Sark's offense. He doesn't have a different offense. He's had the same offense for 3 years. He understands all bits and parts of it. I think the worst thing Patricia can do is come out and blitz. I think Manning will pick that apart. He will eat them alive on it. You're not gonna rattle or scare him, with some kind of blitz packages. And if you try to go too exotic there in college football, that can be a lot trickier than in the NFL. Even in the NFL, you see a lot of busted coverage when you try to go too exotic. Typically, the simplest defenses are the most effective. So this is where I think another fear I have, again, along the trenches, is also this defensive line. I think we all took for granted last year the luxury we had of getting to the quarterback with 4. I think the greatest challenge this line is going to have is, can they get pressure with 4? And on top of pressure, you're going to have to contain. He is a much better athlete than his uncles. He can run the football. And I think his first instinct is going to be to tuck it and run a lot of times to try to sustain drives, keep things going. My fear is you do get that 3rd and 7 or beyond, and you break contain, and he runs for 12 yards. Those are back-breaking type plays because they're really difficult to defend. And then if you say, okay, I'm going to put Styles as my spy, potentially helpful, but again, high football IQ, he's going to probably make those plays more often than not. So pressuring is going to be extremely difficult on Arch Manning. Contain is going to be essential for the defensive ends in this game for Ohio State.
I think the pressure is going to come by K-Mac, because that new offensive line, I honestly do.
I wasn't expecting that name, man. I thought you were going to give me CJ Hicks again.
No, K-Mac's going to blow through that line. I've seen it in practice. I've heard it from everyone. He is a beast. Like, he is the hardest guy on that defensive line to block. He's got a motor. He's got some quickness for a big man. And hey, there's not too many defensive line that come out to interviews just wearing a black shirt that just says white dominance.
Yeah.
Like, he's going to come, all right? He's going to create some pressure.
If you want to see how you neutralize Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady, and the best quarterbacks the football has ever seen, the best way to neutralize the best quarterbacks, pressure up the middle from your tackles. No quarterback is able to when 2 seconds in, they've got a D tackle in their face. Look at what Aaron Donald did against Tom Brady. Go look what Vita Vea did against him in the Super Bowl, not Vita Vea. I'm sorry. I'm going Chris Jones. You had that, but you even saw last year in the Super Bowl as well. Pressure up the middle with Mahomes. You're seeing elite quarterbacks when that D tackle position can get into that backfield quickly. That is when it's extremely difficult for quarterbacks to get in a rhythm and be on cue. If you think that you're going to blitz or your ends are going to get home against an athletic quarterback, a quarterback with a high IQ, they're not. They're just not. And then you're at the mercy of your secondary getting past breakups and hoping to sustain that way.
Damn, Buckeye Hicks coming with it. Buckeye Hicks and Mike Bowser in this, like, giving us some fire comments.
Oh, locker room's been great today. Yeah.
Texas D versus the new quarterback working with a new offensive coordinator is going to be a huge obstacle. Yeah, how Brian Hartline handles this, what he's going to call to the pressures is going to be interesting too. Because we haven't seen it. We don't know what it's going to be like. Yeah, Day's going to have his influence. And someone asked recently, like, do you have veto power on it? Ryan Day's like, yeah. Like, why would you ask me that? They'll be stupid. Of course I have veto power. I'm the head coach, and I just won a national title. Like, that's veto power enough for almost anything in Columbus.
It is, and he should. And I don't think Hartline should be worried about that or anything like that. But I think that's where you prep all off season for this. Hey, it's 2nd and 7. Now you got a false start penalty. It's 2nd and 12. How do you react? Okay, they're showing you this scheme. We schemed all week that they were going to show this. Now they're showing you this look. Okay, what are the packages we're going to now install that beat this look as opposed to the look we practiced for the last 2 weeks? So that's part of having elite coaching. Again, what this coaching staff, and I understand new OC, new DC, but you still have a lot of the pieces, parts in place. What this coaching staff as a whole was able to do in that 4-game run last year, it rejuvenated my confidence in Coach Day, because that was coaching dominated. It was absolute coaching dominated. So I look at those things and I say, okay, I don't think this is solely on Hartline. I look at Coach Day and say, are you putting Julian Sayin in the best position to win? And that can mean a lot of different things in a lot of different games.
And Mike, thanks again for joining us, Bowser. Pressuring Manning doesn't always mean blitz, which we just kind of covered. The pressure up the middle. If you can get pressure with 4, you're doing your job well, because that backside of the defense is studly too. Everything about Ohio State is more just what they're going to do because they don't have experience, how they're going to respond to adversity. They have the athletes, they have the talent, and they always have, and it seems like they always will. But this year, that defense, a lot of people are saying that it might be better than last year's. And that's hard to do when you have a top 5 defense. And
no,
it's freakish. It's more athletic. But is it going to be better? We'll wait and see. Downs football IQ. Manning's football IQ is going to be a great watch. Yeah, because they're both very, very high IQ, very, very smart, and good communicators, on the defense for Downs and for Manning, knowing what to do with the ball. I would give that edge to Downs since he's had a lot more experience. Just won a national title because been there, done that. Has Manning played in an environment with 100,000 people cheering against him, making sure he can't make any call? No. Has Downs? Yes. And he's going to have the crowd on his side.
It's a little bit different. I mean,
Correct.
Between
defense versus offense, and who has the ball every time? Manning. And Downs, he's just reacting.
But I think the point is valid, where there is no substitute for experience. Has Arch Manning been talking football since the day he was born in his entire family? Absolutely. Is he an elite athlete? Absolutely. Can he make probably every throw on a football field? Absolutely. The one area he's lacking is experience. And you can practice however you want. You're practicing against the first team defense at Texas, which is a great practice squad defense to be playing against. At the end of the day, it's not even about the stadium or the noise. It's about the in-game experience against a top 5 team. And that's where we're really going to see great. When you're doing VR and you're on the whiteboard, everything's easy. It's not so easy when they're rushing at you in game time.
Yeah, when you have K-Mac coming at you.
I think that's a great point you made, and I love it because it's organic. We've talked about this for weeks. You've never brought it up. I think if you can see that penetration from the D tackle position in this game, that could be a major X factor in favor of Ohio State, because I really don't see our ends getting upfield and really putting a ton of pressure on them. Again, that creates a lot of holes. That's going to create a lot of running lanes. But if these D tackles can step up, and you're talking Houston and K-Mac, if they can step up and get that pressure on Manning, that is going to be a difference maker.
Yeah, I mean, and you have the defensive ends too. You know, when you're getting the pressure up the middle, it makes it a lot easier on the defensive ends to do their loop and get around the edge too. I mean, because you have guys coming off trying to help out with that. It's going to be interesting. Kenyatta Jackson, time for you to step up. You know, I want to see it. I've heard everything. I've got all the talent in the world. It's time. It is time. Caden Curry, it's time, man. Logan George, if you get in, I don't think Logan George is going to play all that much, but man, Bo Atkinson, he's going to play.
I want to see that.
He's a beast. He's going to play for sure. Outside of Julian making his first start, what worries you the most about this matchup?
Yeah, and I got a hard stop.
I know.
And it's Buckeye Nation, so I'll definitely give this a little runway. I'll turn it over to you, Steve. But I'll tell you right now, it's Ohio State's offensive line. That's what worries me. I worry about them against Texas's front six, because I want to see Ohio State establish a run in this game. I think it's essential to helping out Sang. I also need to see them pass block, right? You're going to have to give this kid 3 seconds to be able to kind of read a little bit and execute. Again, you are not going to beat Texas running 4 to 6 yard routes. You will not. You're going to have to go 8 to 15 yard routes. That's going to require that 2.5 to 3.5 second range for that quarterback. So you're going to have to pass protect against this line. And if Ohio State goes in the first half and they've got 30 yards rushing in the first half, I would be very worried. What about you?
I got to start with pass blocking, because first of all, the interior of the offensive line is the strength of this offensive line. The unknown variables are the edges, and we just moved Austin Sareveld, first of all, to right tackle. Then it wasn't working out for whatever reason, shifted over to left. He's an Iron Buckeye, but he's never played left tackle until this season. He's made the switch. We saw it worked with Donovan Jackson. He kind of learned off of Donovan Jackson and talked about, he's had those conversations with him. It's a lot harder for Donovan to do it because he only had a week. Austin's been doing this all off season. But the interesting part about it is why. First of all, why did that happen? Well, because Ethan Onyanwa was like projected. He was there, like as he came in. Lose your 30 pounds, get bending, get quicker, and then all of a sudden he's over at right tackle. And now Philip Daniels is at right tackle. Is it because Philip Daniels turned it on, and he's just playing out of his mind, or is it because they had some struggles and they weren't able to block our defensive ends? CJ Hicks was getting around the corner too quick. Bo Atkins was getting around the corner. Kenyatta Jackson was getting around there too quick. I don't know. That's going to be really key. And then I would say the 1B would be our pass protection and pass pro with the running backs. We haven't seen it yet. Last year, how many times did Travion Henderson save Will Howard's life? That 3rd and Jeremiah never happens without Travion Henderson.
It was Ezekiel Elliott.
Blitzing line. Yeah. It was like Ezekiel-esque. Yeah. It
was amazing.
So that's what those are my 2 biggest question marks. Like, I think our defense is going to hold up. I think our defense will do well. They'll hold their own. Yeah. Are they going to make some mistakes? Are they going to give up some plays to Manning? Yeah, for sure. Always. in a game like this, there's going to be some mistakes. How do you respond? But my biggest draw is pass protection. We have a young quarterback. We got to support him. We got to be able to block that studly defensive line. Like Colin Simmons can't get around the edge and get a sack. Can't happen.
Yeah.
And
it's a factor. But pass protection is always going to be with a young quarterback because they're going to want to. I see in practice. I read the field. I want to make sure I make the right key. You can't do that in this game. You have to go on your. You just got to go.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Why is saying experience with ADK? I don't think it matters because he's at home, so that's not something I'm really worried about. Yes, is it like hard to come in and be a first-year starter and play against this team? I think that's what helps Ohio State in this game, that it is at noon, because you get that quarterback out there and just go, man. You don't have to wait till 7 o'clock. You don't have to wait till 7:30, whenever the kickoff would be, 8 o'clock. You just go, man. You have no thinking. Let's play ball. I think both quarterbacks and the offenses are going to struggle. It's going to be a field position and ball protection game and or a big play. Well, that's what happened last year, right? It was kind of until some of those big plays happened when Travion Henderson took that screen to the house. I think there's chances for things like that, obviously, when you have playmakers like Ohio State has and like Texas has. Those big plays, those explosive plays can be the difference in a game it's talent equated. Explosive plays, number one. Turnover. I should say turnovers, number one. Explosive plays, number two, are going to be the outcome of this game.
I think it's penalties. I think penalties are going to stifle an inexperienced offense on both sides of the ball. And you, again, turnovers hurt, but you can overcome them in certain situations. When you're routinely at 1st and 20 or 2nd and 18, those are drive killers. And in a lot of ways, they're not as devastating as a turnover, right? Because you're hopefully flipping the field by 30, 40 yards. But they're just as devastating when you're going 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. There's a lot of demoralizing there. I think with a fumble, you can always say to yourself, hey, we were clicking here. Somebody just got a hand on the ball. We're clicking now. So turnovers, to me, I think you can overcome those with just the rationale of, it was one bad throw, one bad hit that caused the ball to come out. When you're routinely going 3 and out as a result of penalties, that can demoralize you.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right on that. I will give you that.
Buddy, I gave you 5 extra minutes.
Oh, man. Hey,
Sorry,
I'm getting paid. I'm getting paid here. Before you go, you got a score prediction? What's the score?
Oh, man. 27-24 Texas.
Damn it. Damn you.
I know, man. Listen, it's not about how you start. It's about how you finish. And I hope we all learned that last year. We don't need to get too high or too low after this game. Use this as a build and develop game. Just be fundamentally sound. Damn
you, Seattle.
Good,
damn
man.
you.
I know traditions, man.
You're gonna figure out this out after you get off here and listen to this tomorrow morning. Why I said damn you, and you're gonna be like, "What the hell? What the hell?" All right, get out of here, man. Get out of here with that pick. Get the hell out of here. Anyone in the locker room have a score prediction? We got to talk about it. So, thanks for joining us. Thanks for coming back.
Thank you all.
Nice to have you on here, man.
Sunday morning.
God bless you. Join us Sunday morning for the morning after, for sure. That's always the hot one, man. Everyone's on. I mean, that's really when people listen to our show, is the Sunday morning after.
Yeah, absolutely. We will be there 9:30 Eastern, 6:30 for all the West Coasters. I will be on. We'll be ready. Hopefully, y'all can tell me how wrong I was. Love to be wrong Sunday morning.
All right, man. Peace out. I'm staying on for a little bit. We'll talk to y'all.
All right.
Seattle's gone. Hey, going solo. Hey, big on the screen now. Here we go. Bowser, 28-13. Man, come on, Mike. I know. What are you, a Notre Dame fan? Something like that? All right. And the reason why I decided to say damn it to them, because that was going to be my pick. 27-24. Last year I thought Ohio State would lose at Oregon, and then I changed it at the last minute, and I was like, you know what? I got to stick with my gut. I think Ohio State's going to lose a close one, and I think this is going to be the one game that they do lose. They're going to learn a lot from it. They're inexperienced. Like I said, they got their quarterback screwed. Their offensive tackles haven't played at offensive tackle. Defense returning 3 starters. I know they got good pieces behind them, but I think that they need some time to gel. And I don't want to be that Buckeye homer that's just like they're going to blow them out, because yes, those thoughts have crossed my head. And from what I've seen in practice, I think they got all the pieces. I just think they need the experience. They need that time to develop, to gel together on the offensive line. They need that time to develop together in the second level of the defense. And they need that time in the defense in general. Yeah, they got a good field commander in Caleb Downs. And I think we're going to see great things, but it's going to take the end of the year to get there. Like Seattle, Matt said, and I agree with him wholeheartedly. End of the year is where it matters. Like, things have changed in college football. Before, you needed this game. You absolutely needed this game because one more and you're done. Now, you can have 2 losses, right? And especially teams like Texas and Ohio State. You can have 2 losses because you got that name brand too. All right, better question is, what do you think about Notre Dame versus Miami on Sunday? Notre Dame versus Miami on Sunday. I have to go with Notre Dame, the way they've been playing, and surprised me. I know they start out kind of rough usually in the beginning of the year, but I just don't trust Miami. It's been a while. At least Notre Dame has shown that they can get there and they can get the job done. That's your last question. Yeah, so I'm gonna go with Notre Dame on this one for sure. And plus they got a Buckeye as their head coach, so got to go with that every time. All right, last thing that I want to show before I get off here, I want to pull up a little clip and see if I can share that with y'all. All right, first thing, here we go. I gotta share my screen, and here we go. Because you got to see this, man. This is awesome. All right. Hopefully you all can see this. There it is. All right. And hopefully you all can hear it. Watch this. Urban Meyer. All right. So hopefully you can hear it well. What it was, for those of you listening audio, was Urban Meyer at the Bowling Green State University game. All right. Awesome. Just absolutely awesome. He was cheering on Eddie George as his first game as the head coach of Bowling Green. And obviously, if you don't already know, Urban Meyer's first job was Bowling Green State University, had them rated. So Urban Meyer coming back there was extra special. And then you saw that like chest bump, like high five, a little bit of a chest bump by Urban Meyer to Joey Galloway. Just the Buckeye brotherhood is strong everywhere. Just cool thing to see, all around the emotional experience of that. Awesome. Absolutely awesome. Better game overall. All right, we got a couple questions in the locker room. Better game overall. LSU versus Clemson or Texas versus Ohio State? To me, that's that's a no-brainer. It's Texas, Ohio State. LSU, Clemson is like, that's a great game. And ordinarily in this weekend, it would have been the best game. And usually it's the best game. But this is number 1 versus number 3. They just played last year. They're kind of trading back and forth between who's been winning in this series, and unfortunately it's been the away team that's been winning the games. You go back to 2005, Texas won. You go to 2006, Ohio State won. I guess you could call the Cotton Bowl an away game for Ohio State when we won last year. And then there was another like Fiesta Bowl that Texas won, I believe. And I can't even remember what year that was. I want to say it was like, I don't even remember. Anyway, 2011? Can't remember. But if you remember in the locker room, you can get to me. So, Texas, Ohio State. Both of us are picking Texas, unfortunately. I don't like to do that, but I got to stick with my gut. Well, change our mind. Come in here. Get after us in the locker room if we're wrong. Get after us. Absolutely. Texas 27, Ohio State 24. But that changes nothing for the season. As long as you go win at Penn State, you win Penn State at home, and you win at Illinois, and you win at Washington, and then you go to the Big House and pull that game off, this is still possibly even a 2 seed, 1-2 seed. You can be rated number 1 with 1 loss, depending on how the season goes. So, thank you all, Buckeye backers, for being in the show. Thanks for the locker room. Awesome comments. It is football season. Let's get ready. Ladies and gentlemen, Buckeye backers are out. God bless. End of the show. Peace. Maybe.